Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Streaming Charts with Dan, where we look at the different viewership data across the different streaming platforms. We have a few weeks to catch up on, although thankfully I didn't wait quite as long between this episode and the last episode as I did the episode before. And we actually have something interesting to talk about today, and that is One Piece, the live action anime adaptation. I did a review of One Piece on the channel last week. We got viewership numbers for week 1 of One Piece, which would be the first few days that it was out on Netflix. And of course, the question that everybody has now is, will there be a season 2? I'm going to look at those week 1 numbers, compare them against other Netflix series, and give my projection on what I think the future of One Piece is. But before we do that, let's start as we usually do with some of the other streaming platforms. And we're going to look at the top 10 purchases and rentals on the iTunes store as of yesterday, Saturday, September 9th. At number 1 is No Hard Feelings, which is currently available for purchase and rental. I did a breakdown of movies that I thought would lose money overall or would be able to break even, and I actually said that even though No Hard Feelings had a pretty high budget for a comedy, around $50 million, and it lost a lot of money at the box office, I projected that it could possibly break even eventually because comedies like this are appealing to home viewers, and we're seeing that with this data. The fact that No Hard Feelings is at the top of the iTunes charts, that might help to shore up some of those losses that the movie took in the theatrical window. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is in second place, available for purchase only. In third place is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, available for purchase and rental. In fourth place is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is available for purchase and premium video on demand. Those are those high-priced rentals at either $14 or $19, somewhere in that range. In fifth place is Strays, also available for purchase and premium video on demand. Elemental, currently available for purchase only, is in sixth place, followed by Meg 2: The Trench, also available for purchase and PVOD. Fast X, which is available for purchase and regular rental. In ninth place is American Made, the Tom Cruise movie from several years ago. I have no idea why it's in ninth place, so I'm going to go to my default answer, which is TikTok. And in 10th place is Wes Anderson's new film, Asteroid City, available for purchase and rental. These are the top 10 programs on Amazon Prime Video as of yesterday, September the 9th. The Wheel of Time is at number 1 because the second season of that series was released not too long ago. Amazon, like a lot of other streaming platforms, doesn't subdivide its data between different seasons of different shows. So it doesn't tell me how many people are watching season 2 of Wheel of Time versus season 1 of Wheel of Time. This is all of the show's streaming data put together. It's one key difference between Netflix, which does subdivide all of a show's seasons, and places like Amazon. In second place is the YA series Shelter, followed by the new Amazon movie Sitting in Bars with Cake. The Summer I Turned Pretty continues its successful run on Amazon. It's a weekly series and it's there at number 4. The Batman is at number 5, having gone through its period of exclusivity on HBO Max/Max. It's now available with Amazon Prime, followed by The Chosen Season 3, Champions, Cocaine Bear, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and Black Adam. And basically, almost that whole back half of the top 10 are all movies that were at one point exclusives on Max or Paramount Plus or Peacock or some streaming service, but that's how it works now. It goes through that pay one window, out of theaters, directly exclusively to the streaming service that's owned by its corporate parent. And now we're at the point where it has moved past that window of exclusivity with those platforms and is being licensed to other platforms. It's the new normal in distribution now. We have a few weeks of Netflix data to catch up on, so let's start with the week of August 14th through the 20th, when Gal Gadot's Heart of Stone dominated the Netflix chart. 74 million hours watched and a total view count of 35.24. This is a very popular Netflix original movie. In second place was the Netflix series Depp v. Heard. It's a 3-part docuseries that aired earlier this year in the UK on their Channel 4. It's now airing here on Netflix. In third place is the Netflix limited series Painkiller. In fourth place is Monkey King. It's from director Anthony Stacchi, his first film since 2014's The Box Trolls, so a Netflix original animated film there. In fifth place is The Pope's Exorcist, which is from Sony. As we've talked about many times before, Sony does not have its own streaming service as far as movies go, so it licenses its films directly to Netflix in that pay one window, the window right outside of theatrical availability, and it's a very lucrative deal for Sony. Sony's actually making a lot of money in licensing that other studios are not making. In sixth place is the true crime doc A Life Too Short, the Isabella Nardoni case about the death of a young girl in Brazil. In seventh place is Half Brothers, a film about a Mexican man who finds out that he has an American half-brother and goes on a crazy road trip. In eighth place is Ballers Season 1 with an hours watch figure of 18.4 million and total views of 3.91 million. And you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Dan, isn't Ballers an HBO series? Yes, it very much is. We talked about this several weeks ago. HBO is exploring licensing some of its content to Netflix. Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the parent company, of course, of HBO, is looking to save money and make money where they can. And we're actually going back to where we started with this whole thing. So you're going to see HBO stuff popping up on Netflix. I believe Band of Brothers in the Pacific are due to be licensed to Netflix in the very near future. In a very real sense, we are returning to the way things were, but with the media landscape radically changed. In ninth place is the Netflix original movie Paradise, and rounding out in 10th place is the John Cena Jackie Chan film Hidden Strike. Moving on to the week of August 21st through the 27th, The Monkey King sits on top of the charts with 14.36 million views, followed by Heart of Stone with just about 13.5 million views. In third place is Who is Erin Carter, a UK TV show about an average school teacher who finds out that she may have special skills. In fourth place is the new Adam Sandler produced film You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, which had about 21.3 million hours watched and 12.29 million views. Depp v. Heard is in fifth place. In sixth place is Mask Girl, which is a South Korean series about a woman who dons a mask to become a new online persona. In seventh place is Ragnarok, the third season of a show out of Norway with a modern take on Greek mythology. Street Kings, the David Ayer movie, is in eighth place with about 5.67 million views. Painkiller is in ninth place, and The Boss Baby, which is on this chart quite often, is back in 10th place with 9 million hours watched and about 5.51 million views. Moving on now to the latest data that we have from Netflix, the week of August 28th to September 3rd. This was the premiere week of One Piece Season 1. It was not at the top of the charts. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah was the most viewed program according to Netflix with 21.87 million views, but that is a movie versus a multi-hour series, and One Piece Season 1 does come in second place. It put up an hours watch number of 140.1 million and total views of 18.52 million, meaning that's the estimated number of people based on watch time who could have watched the entire series. And keep in mind, that's only over the course of 3 or 4 days. Usually what we see with the Netflix series is that you will have an initial number in week 1 and then a bigger number if the show is a hit, sometimes a much bigger number in week 2. Squid Game, for example, exploded between week 1 and week 2, and it's often an indicator of what word of mouth on the show is. So the week 1 numbers on One Piece are very interesting. The week 2 numbers may be even more indicative of how successful the show is. Who is Erin Carter's in third place with 15.8 million views. The Monkey King is in fourth place. Heart of Stone is in fifth place. In sixth place is the Choose Your Own Adventure movie Choose Love with 6.47 million views, followed by Ragnarok Season 3. In eighth place is the docu-series Live to 100, Secrets of the Blue Zones with 5.74 million views. In ninth place is the film The Great Seduction, about a small town trying to legitimize itself and land a fish packing business by luring a new doctor to town. And in 10th place is Killer Club, a film from Spain about a mask-wearing psycho stalking a group of friends. But let's talk a little bit about One Piece. It had the 11th best debut for any series on Netflix since they started reporting ratings back in 2021, meaning a debut for season 1 of a series or the first season of a limited series. And it's one of only 24 series that have put up over 100,000 hours of watch time in its first week since that reporting also began in 2021. Will this be enough to get One Piece a second season? Well, as I mentioned, a lot of that is going to have to do with week 2 viewership and how much the show grows in that second week, how many more views it's able to pick up, people that are finishing out the series after starting it in the initial week. But there are some clues, at least I think, that may tell us based on week 1 numbers, especially in relation to other Netflix series, about how likely it is that One Piece may be coming back for more adventures. Let's look first at Netflix series in 2023 as far as most hours watched in the first week globally. Ginny and Georgia Season 2 had the best week 1 of any Netflix series this year with over 180 million hours watched, and that show was renewed. It was actually given a multi-season renewal, followed by The Night Agent Season 1. It had over 168 million hours watched in its first week. It was also renewed. Outer Banks Season 3 had 154.9 million hours watched in week 1. It was renewed for another season. The Bridgerton spinoff series Queen Charlotte had over 148.2 million hours watched. However, it was a limited series, so there is really no renewal information to be had. And then in 5th place for 2023 is One Piece with 140.1 million hours watched. Of course, Season 2 is still TBD. Kaleidoscope, another limited series, is in 6th place with 112 million hours watched, followed by You Season 4, 97 million hours watched in week 1. It was renewed for another season. Fubar Season 1, 88.9 million hours watched. It was renewed for another season. Fake Profile Season 1, 76.3 million hours watched in week 1. It was renewed for another season. And XO Kitty Season 1 with 72 million hours watched, and it was renewed. So looking at this data, if One Piece were not to be renewed, it would be the only one of these top 10 shows, other than the limited series that are not eligible for renewal, that would not have been picked up for a second season. So this is good news for fans of the series, because you would basically have to be the trend breaker for 2023 shows to not get picked up, because everything else that has comparable viewing data and has been eligible for a pickup has been picked up for more shows. Let's take a bit of a wider look, though, at series that were making Season 1 debuts, meaning not a limited series and not the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever season of a series. These are brand new Netflix programs that are eligible, theoretically going in, to be picked up for Season 2 and beyond. And again, this is since Netflix started reporting ratings back in 2021. The most watched debut season since then, of course, was Wednesday with 341.2 million hours watched just in week 1, and of course it was renewed for more seasons. Then we had The Night Agent, which I mentioned was also renewed for a second season. And then we have One Piece. One Piece actually put up, for the first season of a Netflix show, the 3rd best numbers in week 1 of any show since ratings reportings began back in 2021. We are still TBD on the season renewal. The Watcher Season 1 is in 4th place with 125 million hours watched. It was renewed. All of Us Are Dead Season 1 in 5th place with 124.7 million hours watched. It was renewed. Fubar Season 1 was renewed. Vikings Valhalla Season 1 debuted with 80.5 million hours watched in week 1. It was renewed. 1899 Season 1 is the first show on this list, one of the 10 best debuts for Season 1 of a new Netflix series. It was canceled. It was not picked up for more episodes. 79.2 million hours watched in week 1. Fake Profile Season 1 had 76.3 million hours watched in week 1. It was renewed for another season. And then we have Resident Evil Season 1, 72.6 million hours watched. It was not picked up for a second season, even though it is in the top 10 as far as debut weeks for Season 1s of new Netflix programming. So I still think this is a positive sign for One Piece, because the 2 shows on this list that were canceled, 1899 and Resident Evil, had about half the viewership that One Piece had in its debut week. The only thing that would give me pause is that 1899 and Resident Evil were also sort of complex shows. They weren't a soap opera or a straightforward drama. So you could say, well, you know, the more ambitious shows and maybe the more genre shows on this list, some of them were renewed and some of them were not. So perhaps that's more of a mixed message as far as One Piece is concerned. But I still think that that raw Season 1 watch time is a positive sign for the series. And if it were not to be picked up, I really think it would be due to one of 3 things. Number 1, the second week viewership data just plunges. We're not going to know that until Netflix releases those numbers on Tuesday. But if for some reason everybody who was going to watch One Piece watched it in these first few days and then nobody watched it in the second week, then I could see Netflix saying, well, it doesn't really look like the enthusiasm is there for a second season. Another reason would be if Netflix looks at the viewership data and the viewership data is strong, but they say it would be so expensive to mount a season 2, even though the data is high, we just aren't willing to put that investment into it. And then the third option would be that Netflix would have picked up a second season of One Piece 6 months or a year or 2 years ago, but because of the volatility of the streaming industry, they say, well, we would have spent this money, but we're not going to now because we're being more careful with our investment. I don't think that any of these scenarios are particularly likely, but they're all still possible. So my overall message for fans of One Piece would be that according to the numbers, I think it is probable that One Piece will get a second season. If the week 2 numbers are strong, then I think it's likely that that word could come down from Netflix this week unless they're trying to wait out the strike and not get fan enthusiasm up about any of these projects. But there are some scenarios that I don't think are extraordinarily far-fetched where Netflix decides not to go forward with One Piece Season 2. However, I think they would have thought through all of these scenarios, and if they honestly thought that they were likely to happen, then they wouldn't have made that initial investment because they must know how passionate the One Piece fan base is. And surely they know that if they were to put out a One Piece series that was well received by critics and fans and got decent viewership and then decided to kind of chicken out and not invest more, that would be pretty damaging, I think, to them, especially with those One Piece fans. So it is still very much wait and see, but I think the outlook is very positive for Season 2, and perhaps we'll know more very soon. Let's look at the most watched Netflix programs for the calendar year to date since January 1st. Really only one big addition here, which is that Heart of Stone is now one of the 5 most watched Netflix programs of the year, that is series or movie, with 88.48 million total views. That ranks it behind The Night Agent Season 1, Murder Mystery 2, Extraction 2, and The Mother. Luther the Fallen Son, Queen Charlotte, You People, Your Place or Mine, and The Outlaws all fall down the chart one spot, and Ginny and Georgia Season 2 is off the chart altogether. Looking at the most watched Netflix films since reporting began back in June of 2021, again, no real change here except that Extraction 2 is now one of the 10 most watched films on the service in the last 2.5 years or so. Spencer Confidential drops off of the list. Glass Onion, The Mother, We Can Be Heroes, and The Gray Man are numbers 9 through 6. Red Notice, Don't Look Up, Extraction, The Adam Project, and Bird Box constitute numbers 1 through 5. We have so many more charts to break down, but before we do, I want to thank the sponsors for this video. This video is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Ooh, look at all the pretty new phones and gadgets. Sure, where do I sign? But then comes the whiplash, month after month of crazy bills and unexpected thrills like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. If you look at your bill right now, I can almost guarantee that you're paying more than that. And if you go back and check, I bet you'd be shocked at just how much it's gone up over the last few months or years. It's something I'm glad I don't have to worry about anymore. Mint Mobile is simple and easy. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, and you can use your own phone and keep all your contacts. The process is quick and easy, and Mint has great customer service on hand if you have any questions. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Murrell. That's mintmobile.com/Murrell. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Murrell. This video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Picture this, you're at a coffee shop enjoying a drink and doing some work when that coffee really hits you and you need to use the bathroom right away. Now, would you walk away and leave your computer open and unprotected? I mean, sure, it might be there when you get back, but do you want to take that chance? Well, every time you connect to an unencrypted network, any hacker on that same network can gain access to your personal data with some cheap hardware and basic knowledge. That's why you need ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that hackers can't steal your sensitive data. Just fire up the app, click one button, and you are protected on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, and more so you can stay secure on the go. I love knowing that I'm getting ExpressVPN's protection no matter where I am. A couple of weeks ago, I used my computer in an airport, on a plane, and at a hotel, and not once did I give the security of my personal information a second thought because I was connected to ExpressVPN the whole time. If you're not worried about your data security, then you should be, and if you are, then you need ExpressVPN because it provides security and peace of mind. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Murrell. That's expressvpn.com/Murrell, and you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/Murrell. All right, let's move on from Netflix now to the Nielsen charts. Now, unlike Netflix, these are not global numbers. These are for the United States only, and we're on a delay of about a month here. So these are not quite as current as the numbers that we get from Netflix, but it also covers a much wider array of streaming platforms, which is why I like to look at the Nielsen numbers. Our first look comes for the week of July 24th through the 30th, and let's look first of all at the top 10 streaming movies. At number 1 was Netflix's They Cloned Tyrone with about 11 million hours watched, followed by Transformers Rise of the Beast debuting on Paramount+, Hidden Strike debuting on Netflix, and Happiness for Beginners debuting on Netflix. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is in 5th place, followed by Miraculous, Ladybug and Cat Noir on Netflix, Moana on Disney+, a fixture on this chart, Knock at the Cabin now on Amazon after completing its run on Peacock with 3.6 million hours watched. Encanto on Disney Plus is at number 9, and The Outlaws on Netflix is at number 10. Looking at the most watched streaming shows for July 24th through the 30th, Suits continues its phenomenal summer run, 59.9 million hours watched. These numbers are just bananas. We broke all of this stuff down on the last episode of Streaming Charts if you didn't catch that episode. Sweet Magnolias on Netflix is a distant second with 23.7 million hours watched, followed by Disney Plus's Bluey at 17.7 million hours. The Witcher on Netflix returning with that second half of its latest season, 14.4 million hours watched there. Then NCIS in 5th place, Grey's Anatomy in 6th place, SWAT in 7th place, Coco Melon in 8th, The Lincoln Lawyer in 9th, and Futurama, the revived version on Hulu, making the overall top 10 with 8.4 million hours watched total. Looking at the most watch time per available episode for July 24th through the 30th, Secret Invasion wrapped out its season and is able to top this chart with 1.17 million hours watched per episode for the 6 available episodes, followed by Quarterback with about 800,000 hours watched per episode, Sweet Magnolias with 790,000 hours watched, Good Omens with 618,000 hours watched, and The Witcher with just over 602,000 hours watched. Then we have The Lincoln Lawyer in 6th place, The Summer I Turned Pretty at over 500,000 hours watched per episode, Coco Melon in 8th, Suits in 9th, which again is very impressive considering it has 136 episodes to divide that total watch time by, and then Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which has had a strong second season in the ratings, 365,000 hours watched per episodes for the 18 episodes that were available when this data was taken. I mentioned that Secret Invasion has wrapped up its run and has not appeared on the streaming charts after that final week, that episode 6 debut. So let's look, based on the available data, at where it falls in the MCU as far as the watch time that we know of. When we look at hours watched per episode, and this kind of normalizes things out a little bit because every MCU show has a different number of episodes. Ms. Marvel and What If are at the very back of the pack by quite a large margin. Then we have She-Hulk, which generated 5.8 million hours watched per episode, although that series generally had shorter episodes than most of the other Marvel series. And then we have Secret Invasion. Again, I don't think that this viewership data for Secret Invasion is particularly impressive, especially given the investment that Marvel put into this show. 7 million hours watched per episode. That's about 3 million hours short of the hours watched per episode time for WandaVision. Moon Knight actually had more hours watched per episode with 11 million, followed by Hawkeye with almost the exact same amount, 11.1 million hours watched per episode. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier had 13.1 million hours watched per episode, and Loki Season 1 is the champion at 16.1 million hours watched, and we'll see how Loki Season 2 does. But yeah, Secret Invasion for me just not a show that hit on many cylinders at all. I didn't particularly enjoy the show, and it really did not drive strong viewership. A lot of viewers have been openly souring on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, both at the box office and now with the streaming viewership data. And Marvel is responding. They pushed back several of their series. They're going to ramp down production. They're trying to give more space between projects. The era of ramping up for streaming and trying to pump out as much as you possibly can to get subscribers is obviously over. What we don't know yet is just how much damage was done to all of these brands by flooding the market with all of these different shows and movies. Let's move now to the week of July 31st through August 6th, and we'll look at the most watched streaming movies. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, after a run in theaters, is number one with its Disney Plus debut with 27 million hours watched. The Super Mario Bros. Movie on Peacock is at number 2 with 11.9 million hours watched, followed by Netflix's Happiness for Beginners and Hidden Strike. Transformers Rise of the Beast is at number 5. Fatal on Netflix is at number 6. This is a random 2020 movie. Again, no idea really why it's in the top 10, so I'm just going to say TikTok again. Miraculous, Ladybug, and Cat Noir is at number 7. Jesus Revolution on Netflix is at number 8. This is interesting. At number 9, River Wild. Usually these long-delayed sequels add a "the," like The Predator or The Final Destination. River Wild is what's credited as a reimagining of the 90s movie The River Wild, but they dropped the for 4.9 million hours watched at number 9, and then They Cloned Tyrone rounding out the top 10 at number 10. Looking at the most watched streaming shows for July 31st through August 6th, again, Suits dominating with 53.9 million hours watched. The Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix, with those new episodes for the second half of its season, jumps back up to number 2 at 28.3 million hours watched. Bluey stays at number 3 with 18.1 million hours watched, followed by Sweet Magnolias at number 4 with 12.3 million hours. Then The Witcher at number 5 with 11.7 million hours. NCIS is in 6th place. Cocomelon is in 7th place. Grey's Anatomy is in 8th. SWAT is in 9th. And then Friends rotates back onto the chart with 7.8 million hours watched total at number 10. Looking at the most watched shows per episode, The Lincoln Lawyer's at number 1 with 1.42 million hours watched per episode. Hijack, which was an Idris Elba series, in its last week of episodes, 7 total episodes, is able to make this chart with 850,000 hours watched per episode. So a lot of people tuning into that show at the end of its run. Good Omens is in 3rd place with 12 episodes and 605,000 hours watched per episode. Peacock's Twisted Metal dropped all 10 episodes at once for its initial season, and it makes the charts with 540,000 hours watched per episode, followed by The Summer I Turned Pretty at number 5, Cocomelon at number 6, The Witcher at number 7, Sweet Magnolias at number 8, Suits still holding it down at number 9, and then Star Trek Strange New Worlds in its penultimate week of season 2, still there at number 10 with 317,000 hours watched per episode. Finally, let's look at the week of August 7th through the 13th and the most watched streaming movies. Heart of Stone on Netflix made its debut this week, and it's at number 1 with 16.1 million hours watched, although close behind is the second week of availability for Guardians Volume 3 on Disney Plus with 13.5 million hours watched. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is in 3rd place, followed by Despicable Me 2, which we see on this chart quite a bit, available on Netflix and Peacock at 7.3 million hours watched. Fatal is at number 5, River Wild is at number 6, Rio 2, which is available on various streaming services, is at number 7 with 4.4 million hours watched, followed by Transformers Rise of the Beasts, Safe on Netflix at 4.2 million hours watched, and Fast 5 on Netflix with 3.6 million hours watched. Looking at the top shows for August 7th through the 13th, Suits, again with another 50-plus million hour watched week, followed by The Lincoln Lawyer at 23.6 million hours. Bluey, sticking to that 3rd position. Bluey has really taken off in these streaming ratings. Painkiller debuts on the chart at 16.5 million hours, followed by Grey's Anatomy at number 5, NCIS at number 6. The debut week of Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, which was 2 new episodes that probably helped to boost its watch time, is in 7th place with 11.9 million hours watched, followed by Cocomelon on Netflix, Sweet Magnolias at number 9 from Netflix, and The Big Bang Theory rotating onto the chart at number 10. Looking at the top shows by watch time per available episode, Painkiller easily dominating with 2.75 million hours of watch time per each of its 6 episodes, followed by The Lincoln Lawyer at number 2, Untold, which is a sports-focused docuseries from Netflix, is at number 3 with 580,000 hours watched per episode. Only Murders in the Building charts well here, 544,000 hours watched per episode, followed by The Summer I Turned Pretty at number 5, CoComelon at number 6, Suits at number 7, Sweet Magnolias at number 8, The Witcher at number 9, and then Star Trek Strange New Worlds, as it wrapped out season 2, is at number 10 on this chart again with 250,000 hours watched per episode. A couple of changes to our 2023 numbers, looking at the most watched streaming movies of the year through August 13th. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish moves ahead of Extraction 2 to become the 9th most watched movie across all streaming platforms. That's because it's been available on Peacock, it's been available on Netflix, it's making its way around, and it's up there at number 9. Moana is still the most watched movie of the year, followed by Avatar: The Way of Water, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, You People, and Encanto at number 5. Looking at the most watched original streaming series of the year, again a change at number 10. The Lincoln Lawyer bumps Love is Blind out of the top 10, so it's now the 10th most watched original series of 2023. The Mandalorian's at number 9, Outer Banks is at number 8, The Last of Us is at number 7, and You is at number 6. The Night Agent is at number 5, Ginny and Georgia at number 4, Ted Lasso at number 3, CoComelon at number 2, and then the CoComelon Slayer Bluey, which is now the second most watched series overall for the entire year, at number 1 with 415 million hours watched. And then a big change on the most watched library streaming series. So these are series that are available on streaming networks but that are not original programming. And Suits is now the most watched series across all platforms, streaming or original, for 2023, and is also the most watched library streaming series of 2023 with 442.5 million hours watched. It bumps NCIS down to number 2, which now has over 400 million hours watched. Grey's Anatomy is at number 3, The Big Bang Theory is at number 4, and SWAT is at number 5. The Walking Dead stays at number 6. Heartland moves up to number 7. South Park and New Amsterdam both move down one spot, and Gilmore Girls rounds out the top 10 at number 10. And then finally, as a demonstration of just how much Suits has dominated the streaming world this summer, these are the most watched library streaming series since Nielsen started reporting data weekly back in 2020. So this is across almost 4 years, 3.5 years of data, and Suits now enters that chart at number 8, even though it's only really caught fire in the last couple months. The most watched library streaming series since 2020 is NCIS with over 1.6 billion hours watched. Then Grey's Anatomy with 1.5 billion hours watched, and Criminal Minds with 1.2 billion hours watched. Supernatural is at number 4, and Heartland is at number 5. The Big Bang Theory actually moves up one spot to number 6, and Gilmore Girls moves down one to number 7, but Suits is poised to overtake both of them very soon and potentially enter the top 5 in the next 2 or 3 weeks if this momentum keeps up. It enters the chart at number 8 with 442.5 million hours watched. The Office is bumped down to number 9, and Schitt's Creek goes down to number 10. Shameless, the US version, now drops out of the overall library streaming ratings for 2020 to present. And that wraps us out for this edition of Streaming Charts with Dan. If you want to look at what's coming up this week, both in theaters and on streaming, you can catch my Coming Up show, which will be out tomorrow morning. And then on Tuesday, you will have the newest edition of Charts with Dan, the box office version of the show, where we look at the debut of The Nun 2, among many other films theatrically. I look forward to seeing you on those shows. A lot of the features that you may have seen on this show, like a list of what's coming up next, have been moved to that Coming Soon show, so I hope you check that out. But thanks really for spending part of your day today here with me. I'll be back very soon with more movie news, reviews, box office, charts, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.